society, where we're ticking all the boxes and providing the much needed minority perspective in popular internet discourse. I'm Tilly, my pronouns are she and her, and I lead the music film. Well, oh, so many layers of fucking that up. My name's Tilly, my pronouns are she and her, and usually I lead the film discussions, but today it's one of our infamous Switcheroo episodes where I'll be taking over the reins from Josh, who usually leads the music discussions, and I've picked the album for today, and will be generally leading discussion as we do on this here podcast. But Josh, I'll allow you to introduce yourself all the same.
Yeah, I'm Josh, pronounced he. Yeah, usually I lead the music discussions, but as has been established, Tilly has taken over and picked an album. So
Tilly has taken over.
she's
God, I love that.
leading the Tilly takeover. Yeah, she's leading the chat currently. I will take a backseat like Charlie XCX and see where this goes.
Oh, nice. The gay's leading the podcast today, so you're hitting us up with the Charlie references. Very briefly.
Is
Before we
Charlie
get into
XCX
it.
gay? I still
No, she is. Honestly, like, I think she's the straightest person to ever appeal to gay people. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, she's awesome and I love
even
her, but she is
though
so straight.
it's
She
more
is
gay.
so
She's like
straight.
legit homophobic. It's very confusing.
She's a great ally and I love her, but she has
Yeah.
homophobic energy, yeah.
Is Amy Banks?
Oh no, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Oh my god, Azalea Banks.
No, she's legit bad. Yeah, legit bad.
Genuinely like awful, and for some reason, I think people genuinely like don't know the shit she said because she's said so much that like she's genuinely like people like cancel culture is like a real thing for like certain people and things like that, but she's genuinely ascended it because she said
212
so
is
much.
still like an LGBT anthem.
That yeah,
and
no,
everyone
like,
knows, and it's great. It's good.
no, exactly. We've won. We've queered Azalea Banks. But no, I genuinely like.
I'm sorry. Get us back on track. Get us back on track.
Well, actually, very briefly, you've just reminded me that Charlie XCX has like a new kind of promotional rollout going on right now. Have you seen any of it? If you have, we'll just move. If you haven't, we'll just move on.
Well, I've seen like the big 80s hair kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's super interesting, given that she's coming towards the end of her record deal, and like, have you seen a lot? She's been posting a bunch of stuff, basically being like, "Fuck my record company," which she's, I think she's always been kind of open about how awful her record deal is. She's mentioned some stuff, right?
She signed to recently.
I think it might be Atlantic.
Was Atlantic responsible for XCX World never coming out?
This might be the thing, and if they are, then they are the greatest enemies to humanity's progress of the century. Like, that is a disgusting thing to do. I actually cannot. Yeah, I think I've just googled it, and I'm pretty sure it's Atlantic Records. Yeah, but I don't know. Very brief. I don't know if this is a fruitful discussion, but very brief. I don't love the 80s hair thing. I don't know.
It's very Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, very Lana appearing, but just
Lana presenting.
But Lana presenting female. How I'm feeling now is like it's a good album, but I kind of wish it didn't exist because I feel like it kind of, I don't know, put a weird spin on like Charlie's trajectory, and I'm just purely speaking as like a consumer. Like, of course, underpinning this, Charlie XCX can do whatever she wants, and I'm just saying this is like a person who didn't love how I'm feeling now, and
That's
like it,
I'm
huh?
really interested to hear your reasoning here because, like, my perspective is that would have been a really good EP. It should have just been like a bit shorter. Just keep the
Mm,
bangers, like forever and
yeah,
party on you, party for you.
yeah.
But I never thought of it as like the context of her career, like as being ruinous in any way to the trajectory. So I'm really curious to like see how you got to that conclusion.
Yeah. I wouldn't say ruinous, but I'm kind of concerned about the next album because whenever artists start doing yearly albums, I'm like, slow down, buddy, please. Like, you only have so much material, and it feels like a lot of material went into how I'm feeling now. Uh, and some of it's great, some of it's very good. A decent amount of it felt very fillerish though, and it felt like there were a lot of songs that could have been like on a 10 out of 10 Charlie album that now are not, if that makes sense. And I just have this feeling of like dread because to
Yeah.
me how I'm feeling now felt very like directionless. If I'm honest, I think that was my main problem with it. Like I completely get that's kind of the point, but I think you can do a lockdown album that's like with a direction but is about not having a direction, if that makes sense. Like you
Yeah.
can still have artistic direction, whereas I feel like
That's what Bo Burnham's Inside was about,
yeah,
and literally.
exactly. That's exactly
Um,
what I'm talking about. That kind of thing. Like
yeah.
you can make a cohesive piece of art about an emotion that isn't cohesive. Like
I,
that's a
I,
thing. And I
yeah.
just I don't know. With this with another album coming so soon after that, I kind of just worry about there simply being enough time or not time, but just like creative energy
Mm.
and songwriting process and like I don't know, like three like of uh Charlie is a amazing record, but I
It's
think
her
having two
masterpiece, in my
albums every year after that is a
yeah.
lot, especially with one of them already feeling like it was low on light on material, and then so with this new direction kind of just being an 80s pastiche so far. Like that's the vibe I can say as of now. um I'm concerned
I guess
for them.
maybe the PC music thing is gonna get tired after a bit if
Well,
we don't take a break and like meaningfully re-innovate the genre or the project, or because it kind of feels quite saturated at the moment.
we were talking about that with this about this with Fen, who has been on the show, obviously, uh, and I I think PC music is in a fucking pretty dangerous place. Like everyone who is coming up is just doing a pastiche of a thing that's only been around for about 3 or 4 years. Like that is
Mm.
majorly. That is a really concerning genre thing for a new genre or like subgenre or whatever. What should be
Yeah.
happening now, if this was going to be a flourishing thing, is uh, at least a couple of new acts from that maybe released an album last year or early this
Mm.
year who have staked their claim and shown that they're taking it somewhere new. All that we have right
Yeah.
now is a few lazy fucking shitty EPs with distorted vocals and like a beat that sounds like 100 gex but maybe a little bit more like high pitched, and that's it. That's all we have right now. And
This
like
this is gonna sound kind of tragic. But sometimes when I look at music kind of trends, is I look at figures like Fiona Apple, Joanna Newsom, Radiohead, who,
Mm.
when they come out and have their seminal early album, they basically shift the entire of the music scene, and you'll get like a million Coldplays, a million kind of baroque pop artists who want to sound like, Joanna Newsom,
Yeah.
a million singer songwriters going for like a Fiona Apple vibe, but and same with like Frank Ocean and like ambient pop and R&B, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that one artist kind of stands above them, and every 4 or 5 years releases an album and reminds you, oh yeah, this is the guy. Like when Frank Ocean puts out a new album, it's just a different level to like everyone who he's inspired. And this is like really morbid and sad, but I felt that way about Sophie and PC Music. I thought that PC music will run itself into the ground and get mired, in a very like new metal way, in like loads of generic, shitty kind of knockoff acts. But every time Sophie drops, it's like, oh yeah, this is the one. Like this is bigger than PC music as like a trend. This is like
Yeah.
culturally significant in a way that kind of the trendiness of them is like, can't be. So yeah, her passing just kind of, to me, really just completely rattles the future of this genre, the sound. There are just these acts that just stand above, and yeah, I think losing Sophie was clearly a great loss from that perspective.
I think what you summed up there is, which is my perspective, and I'm completely happy to be proven wrong. If an act blows up in the next year or two that like changes the game with PC music, I'll eat my own hat kind of thing. But I think with PC music, and that includes myself, we got kind of ahead of ourselves and we're like, oh, this is the new thing. There's going to be so many amazing PC music albums, when actually it was like a Fiona Apple thing where there's a few artists who are just good at it. And it's not so much a new genre as it is just a few artists take on pop with a
Mm,
lot of imitators,
mm,
uh and they're very good at, and they influence each other, and they're all part of like this scene that's kind of makes it seem like a new genre. And actually, I would say the 3 years, like 2019 to now, which is about 2.5, seen anyone that isn't one of the major players release a PC music or hyperpop album that I love as much as, like Charlie XCX,
yeah,
Sophie.
I think the last kind of groundbreaking hyperpop album was the 100 Gex for me, at
Yeah,
least.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And now you just have people doing the 100 gex thing, uh, with a kind of like more kind of consumable poppy twist.
I think to vaguely to start to segue towards Taker
Yeah,
Nuki, I do think it's very similar to synthy 70s 80s music, where it's like, oh, this is the, there's a great, on the Daft Punk album, the great Giorgio Moroder quote where he's like, this is the sound of the future. And you realize, oh no, this is just the sound of the 80s. And it's the same with like PC music. It always felt like the sound of the future, but it's really just the sound of 2018. Uh, yeah.
yeah, no, completely, completely. That's what I mean by we got ahead of ourselves. Yeah. Uh, but that brings us on to Taeko Inuki's Romantique. I feel like whenever I pick an album for a Switcheroo, I have to, I mean, not have to, I want to give some context of why I picked this album. I only get to do one of these every so often. Uh, so I picked this mainly because, and I explained this at the end of last episode. Carnival, to me, it was just one of my favorite pop songs ever for a while, and it existed on YouTube, from an artist I'd never heard of, until then. And I still to this day like don't really like listening to albums on YouTube, uh, and so it's definitely a bit of an OCD thing. Like, I don't like the idea that if I really got into this album, I couldn't listen to it whenever I wanted, because listening to stuff on YouTube on your phone is really annoying. For me at least. But yeah, again, that comes with a caveat of I have OCD. And so this this was an artist that kind of existed in like mystery to me with just this one incredible song uh that I always wanted to hear the rest of. And one day I would check her Spotify page because she did have one to see like, oh, can I is it there yet? Can I listen to any of her other stuff? And finally this year I checked her Spotify page and her entire discography had been added.
Mm.
Uh and I don't know, I wanted to like mark the occasion a little bit
Yeah,
and talk about it on the pod.
this stuff, I kind of do. I promise if you can hear the pitter patter of rain in the background of my inner recording, I'm sitting in a makeshift conservatory in rainy London. So yeah, I do kind of, because I discovered her music in a similar way, except it wasn't Carnival. It was the Summer Connection from the Sun Shower
Mm,
album, which basically, especially when I'm studying, I really enjoy like YouTube core music. You know, this is like the stuff like Ryo Fukui scenery,
yeah.
the Japanese man on red cover who plays piano, or like Mother Earth Fantasia. Like there are just albums that are
Mm,
constantly recommended. That's the arena where I like listening to YouTube music because it is just like I'm gonna put on this like mix on my laptop while I'm typing stuff, and it's not music I want to have like an intimate familiarity with, but it kind of just drowns
you
out the
just
thoughts
love.
when I do and everything, and it's like good vibes. It's
Yeah.
like listening to Animal Crossing music. Like I love listening to Animal Crossing music
Yeah,
when
yeah, 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 yeah.
studying. It's just the vibes are impeccable. Um, and so yeah, so that's the angle I'm coming from. But yeah, very much do think this is kind of
Awesome.
like YouTube core energy.
To introduce Yam a little bit. This is her fourth album. Apparently, it was inspired by the soundtracks of French cinema, which is super interesting to find out.
Hmm.
However,
Yeah, it
I
checks
think
out. Yeah.
yeah, it checks out. What I will say though is normally with just any kind of music review, not just Switcheroo ones, I'll normally have like an angle I'm coming at this from, like I mean just not even an angle, like I'll be engaging with the themes of the album and ideas and motifs and such. Uh but uh not many translations there are not translations of
Hmm.
all the lyrics on this album, nor are even including the names of several of the songs. I don't know, that might be Spotify. I did Google it as well, but to no avail as well. And also like I don't like Google translating stuff because it just doesn't work a lot of the time.
Yeah, I
uh
think I've got about a half of this album I found good translations of,
exactly,
and there
same
were like
here.
some deep cuts where I couldn't find stuff.
So I think what I'm going to be doing is taking a much more vibes based approach once again
Hmm.
to this music. Uh and that's fine by me because um well, I just fucking love this album's sound. I just think it's such a rich, luscious thing that's really like consistent. It knows exactly what it is and it hits loads of musical beats kind of again and again, which I really don't have a problem with. There's this I find with this album I have this very comforting familiarity with it now. Oh, not even now, but even on the first few listens, I just it's I want it's very predictable, and I mean that in kind of the best way. You can always expect these songs to be taken to the maximum in the richness of their production, for certain like musical stings to happen, even just to flesh out the sound of everything a bit. Like it always feels like a show is being kind of put on for you, and there's like no holes barred. They want to leave no stone unturned in like providing the audience with this like theatrical display of musical ability. It's a very fun and sweet album for me because of that, because it just it feels like a show put on to just make sure everything is as good as it can be. um I really really like this album. What how are you reacting to it in comparison? I would like to hear how it compares to the other album you've heard from her?
Yeah. So like listening to this, I was like, maybe this is how Teddy felt listening to Milk Vendor, because I was like, I think this is okay. It's fine. Like it's I understand how you like find this very good vibes, but I had a
This
thing listening
is
to it
such
where if it is it's YouTube music. I don't know what to tell you. Like I was trying to listen to it walking around doing stuff, and it was like, man, I need more going on. Like
okay.
there it is song after song, but there's basically two songs on the album. One of them is synthy, kind of like early 80s, 70s pop. Stuff like Carnival, which kind of reminds me of like a Carpenter theme, you know? And then
Mm.
there's the more soulful, kind of jam session-y, you know, and that
Yeah.
jam session-y part of the album I do like a lot more and it's more diverse and interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm not like sitting down, taking notes in it and forcing myself to think of things to think about the songs, it really washes over me. Like it really washes over me. And it doesn't I think when you asked me about comparing it to the other album from Ohnuki that I've heard, Sunshower, that album didn't wash over me. Like that felt really substantive and big and like really cool and good. There's a song called Sargasso
Mm.
Sea, which is like this like 70s electronica, like beautiful like ambient pop bit, which is just like production wise, it's just like fucking hell, this is crazy. And nothing here like really blew me away on that level. Like there was some really good moments of
Mm.
songwriting on like, as you said, stings or bits that were really good. Just as a full project, it left me feeling like that was fine. I okay while it was on, and I couldn't hum a line from it when it's off. Like
Okay.
I just, it leaves my brain. It's a very head
Yeah.
empty album.
No,
Like,
see, there we go. This is the thing. I love how head empty it makes me. Like this for me became almost an exercise in just being like content. I think this is a
Mm,
really like rich, luscious album, and the reason I brought up that kind of feeling, like I think the recording here and every performance is so immaculate, uh, and I found just like relishing that incredibly like pleasant and fun. Uh, there's and just the simplicity of that in itself is a really strong quality for me. Like it's a very feelings based reason to get into an album. But I mean, so is every reason to get into an album. But I'm not like hugely shocked to hear that because it was on my second listen that I had similar thoughts of like, this isn't the most kind of varied or grand kind of piece here. uh like it's how much do I actually like it, and did I love it so much on first listen because I just with that first album listen, when you vaguely like it, it can sometimes get hyped up quite a lot, whereas when you're kind of used to the sound of it, it's kind of everything's a lot less major for you. Um, but I
it,
kind of,
it,
I kind of, I don't, I didn't. This isn't. I'm not. This isn't to say that I don't like your response to it, but just I
mm,
didn't like that response from me because the reasons I loved it when I first listened to it were mainly because of what I said originally, where I just think it's an incredibly lush album, and like there's no half measures here. Every song is taken to the limit of its sonic potential, is what I would say. Like I really feel like they I don't know, they just did the most. She's always giving it her all. Like her voice is always gorgeous. All of the performances and just the way all the harmonies interact with each other are just never disappoint me, and it's a very simple pleasure.
I agree that it is well performed. If I went to a cafe and this band was playing, I'd be like, this is fine. it's incredibly inoffensive though. Like it doesn't make me feel anything, and that's like the dark side of Head Empty. It's just the
No.
numbingness of this. Like it was like staring at wallpaper for 45 minutes, and the
No.
wallpaper, like, it's fine.
No,
It's
it's
like inoffensive. It's
no,
even
it's
like kind of
really
good. Even
nice
even
wallpaper.
good wallpaper. Staring at nice wallpaper for 45 minutes. It's not like
No.
a
Okay, no,
compelling
it's not.
experience.
Nah,
Even
you
okay,
are.
I brought up Animal Crossing earlier on, and
Nah.
even Animal Crossing music, it moves me in ways that Animal Crossing music should not move a person. Like 7 p.m. from the New Leaf soundtrack. It's really weird and sad and inspires like this existential dread in me. That I'm
See,
like, why am I
this
feeling
is what
stuff?
I'm saying.
I don't
I think
feel anything with this album.
no. I think you need to. I think this is a very vibes based album, and I think you just haven't found that specific thing where it's just like, ah, yes, no,
But
I
there
get
must be
this.
more than vibes. Like
No,
to
no.
talk to talk about
I'm
that
gonna.
vibes is fine if I'm like relaxed. I just need a wind down at the end of a long day. But to talk about an album discernibly on a podcast for like 8 plus, I need like something to eat. I need like food.
No,
Like
I
I
understand.
need something to talk
I'm gonna be honest. There isn't much food. There's not much food, but that's fine. That's fine. There isn't much food, and I understand. I understand. And what's very interesting to me is just that we agree. Like we agree that both of us don't have a lot to say, but we just have very different reactions to that. I mean, I would normally agree with you
about.
where like if I come away from something and I just have a nice time and then I go, okay, I mean it's like a decent movie. But sometimes I think the Head Empty like reaches an untapped layer of potential of just like
Not
peace.
Brian Eno. Like this isn't the epitome of head empty
No,
music.
I'm not
Like,
saying no. I'm not saying it's
like
ambient.
this is
When
okay head empty music. Like this isn't like the best head empty. Like
no, but
like
when a
Playboy
pop
Carti's
album.
Location is a good example of like head empty music that is doing the most head emptiness to the
Mm.
point of being like weirdly moving and intoxicating.
Oh, I don't know what it is. I'm just very infatuated with it. I think the best thing to do would be to talk about our favorite songs then,
Okay.
and do that for a bit.
Yeah.
Because like you say, like that's I understand what you're saying. I think it's a much easier piece to talk
Starbucks
about
music. What
as
can I
like
say about Starbucks music?
no, okay, don't. It's not Starbucks music.
Okay, it's
It's
Cafe
not.
Nero. It's slightly classy.
No, no,
Okay.
no. Like this is like okay. I'll give you. This is like a bar you're having a nice time at music, and it's quite a nice bar. Will you give me that? Will you
I
give
will
me
give
that?
you. I will give you
Thank you, Josh. Starbucks music. But I like I was saying, I think it's an easier thing to talk about as just individual songs that are very good because at the same time that I say all of this, I don't have access to the lyrics and like
yeah.
so that it
Well,
is difficult.
okay, one great sadness I have in this album is when I went and looked at some of the translated lyrics I could find, they look being like my
Beautiful.
favorite elevated the album. Really like lyrically what's happening on this album. They're really nice stuff. I really like lyrics happening. Like on Carnival. I don't like the song Carnival. I'm very sorry. I don't like the song Carnival. I think it's very boring. And I don't like
Carnival's
the synths.
awesome.
I don't like the electric guitar. I don't like it feels like it feels like a weak kind of Carpenter song. Like I'm not into it. I don't like when she sings
Oh
with
no, that's
synths.
awesome.
I'm sorry, I know that's blasphemy. I know that's the most popular song in this album. I'm not into it. But I like the lyrics a lot. I love this kind of like theme. I love this metaphor of the carnival as kind of this like place of pure escapism. And there's this kind of
Yeah.
like narrative in the lyrics there about this sweeping flight into the night, of partying and drinking and
Yeah.
presumably romance, right? And just kind of this like longing for simplicity and fun, but expressing it in a very like poetic, kind of weary way. Like there's this great line: "A formalist for unwelcome guest, a pessimist who locked the door. It's the sweating, dancing, and swigging liquor. Carnival, 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 carnival. No is, no isms are present." Like that's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Even I really, really lyrically like what's happening here.
I think
Yeah.
I think there's a I don't know, there's a very sweeping feeling to all of this.
Mm.
That's kind of the head empty thing it gives me.
I don't think it wants to be head empty. That's the problem with the album. I think it wants to be heartbreaking.
Mm,
Because so many of the lyrics are about nostalgia, about people who've gone away, about lost loves, about like burning up love letters, about like crying in the rain. Like it wants
yeah.
to break your
Oh,
heart, and
head
it's not
head
heartbreaking.
empty in like a sad way though. I
Does
don't know.
it make you sad? Does this album make you sad?
No. No, but I don't know. Listen, yeah. No, I just okay, I've never had less reason to love an album. But it just sounds really good. It just everything sounds really nice. And I think that's enough. Like
Moments where, in the same way that video games have ludonarrative dissonance, I get like audio narrative dissonance from the lyrics and the music from this album. Where, like, for example, The Watchtower of the Old Days, track 4, or Wakaki Hino Buru. I hope I pronounced that right. I really like the lyrical stuff happening here. Like there's this line, those days you were young to, stubbornly loving each other, that was everything, living was everything. Like,
mm,
and that really captures like when you're in a heartbroken state and like getting up and eating food is shitty, and you look
yeah.
back at like when you were just excited to have lunch with your partner, and it was just like living was so intoxicating. And that song, even though I really like that song, it doesn't emotionally sweep me sonically in the way that the lyrics do.
Mm.
And there's this dissonance where I feel like the album is reaching, it's more ambitious than a Head Empty album, yet it belongs in YouTube recommendations. Like it's not, whereas Sunshower, which I really loved, belongs in like a vinyl store and you should buy it for £10.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should pay money for this album, really. It's not amazing. Like
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
Just
Yeah.
I think part of it is the recording quality and the production is fantastic. Like everything has a very just it's a very rich sound to everything. So I think even the album's smaller gestures feel really grand to me. Like it's just an album that sounds fantastic to me.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, all of the little stuff is like you say, like the instrumental for track 4 isn't this insane soundscape, or it's not hugely grand or anything, but it feels like the production has taken these kind of smaller elements and made them really large, and I think that's the simplicity I'm trying to get at, where it's like it's a very relatable feeling album in that way, where I think track four is great. It's not one of my 3 favorites, but track 4 is great for me because of that thing, because it's like a really like very simple, relatable melody kind of made really grand. And I just really like that juxtaposition.
Hmm.
Uh but I want to hear the tracks you love. I want to hear your least favorite, and then I want to hear
Okay.
your recommendation. But mainly I want to hear the tracks you love, because this has been
Damn.
hard.
Well, before, can I get an honorable mention in the chat? The final
Mm.
track, Aini Suku Warate, is boss fight music. It sounds like
Yes.
Final Fantasy VI Kefka boss fight music. And it rounds off the carnival theme in a very sonically satisfying way. I like the final track. It's not one of my favorites, but my three favorite tracks in no particular order, are The Rainy Dawn or the Yoke. I apologize again for not being Japanese. That's track three. I think it gives a nice sense of atmosphere. It feels like sitting in a romantic restaurant by the rivers in Venice. And I love the way the song explodes instrumentally at the 2 minute mark. It's a really wonderful instrumental break. And again, like very Venice to me. I don't know why. I got real Venice vibes from this. I think the strings at the end of the song are really lush, really gorgeous, and it's a very grand and like marvelously produced track, which goes along with lyrics about being heartbroken, burning up love letters, sitting alone in the bed as it rains. So, The Rainy Dawn, good song. And then, Watchtower of the Old Days, track 4, Wakaki Hinoburu, was another track I really liked. Again, it's a bit nondescript, kind of blends in. All these songs kind of blend in a little bit. But I really love the piano on this track. They felt really playful and twinkly. And there's a solemn sort of romantic intrigue to the song. It does feel like a tragic waltz. And it's not moving, but it's nice. And I'm saying nice things about it. Um, and the vocals are very subdued and poised, dignified, if you will. Yeah, I like the vocals in that track. And then finally we have New Shirt or Atarishi shirts, which I also think is nice. It kind of reminds me of a mid-70s Billy Joel song.
Which track number is that? Do you remember?
That's track 9.
Oh yeah.
The appeal is similar. It's like a slow, thoughtful, soulful track. I have a joke in here about Olivia Rodriguez fans, but I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it alone
do
for
it,
a bit.
do it.
I met Billy Joel, and I just assumed that all Olivia Rodriguez fans are also huge Billy Joel fans. Because she has that song about how her boyfriend. No, she showed her boyfriend Billy Joel, but then he broke up with her to get with a new girl, and now is showing her Billy Joel, and she's like, "Wait a minute, I'm the one who showed you Billy Joel," and it's like, damn. Your boyfriend sounds like a pretty normal person, Olivia. It just sounds fine. I heard the album. It sounds fine. Like sometimes people break up and you date people in the same friendship group. It's not a betrayal.
Yes.
It's fine.
Oh yes, Josh, you've said. Oh, you've done it now. You've done it now. Yes, I agree. Good for You is a really weird song. It's a really weird song. It's a like, I hate you. You're happy now. Like, and it's not like a fun like satire. It's just genuinely like, fuck you. You're happy. You sociopath. What? It's a really weird song. Sorry.
That is a middling album, which I don't like.
No one will remember it. It's fine.
I listened to it like a few times because I was like, cool song. But anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. Back to this album. So this sounds like a Billy Joel song. Yeah, it's just, it just has that like sweeping sentimentality of like a 70s Billy Joel song. Again, the lyrics has motifs of like nostalgia, heartbreak, love letters. Although this one kind of reads to me as like knowing a relationship is over before you're able to like admit it to yourself or the other person. There's this great line about at our farewell, my calmness, I hate it. I don't show any tears either. I'm acting a play. You're everything that I once loved. I'm scared it will crumble, so I can't say anything. Just kind of, this weird numbness to a relationship, and kind of you're playing a role, but you don't want to admit it because it's comfortable to be there.
Yeah.
So good song lyrically. Sounds like a nice Billy Joel song. I like that song. And then my least favorite track is Keibetsu, which is track 8, which does nothing for me. And this is the one song where I think the production is bad. I think the vocals are mixed weirdly and are quite tinny. And there's like a real like moment where she has like this like vocal shout where it's like this kind of climactic like hook moment. I think she's saying like you'll never get back or something. And it just isn't mixed well. I don't like how
No,
it's mixed.
I agree. It's like it's a bad stereo recording, I think is
Mm,
what it is.
that might be what it is.
I think it's really weird though. Like I do agree. I was listening to it for the first time and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like it's I think it's there's a fun kind of power pop song in there,
Mm,
but right now it is mixed so
yeah.
weirdly. Like
Well,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
And overall, I give this a weak not recommend. And I can't emphasize how weak of a not recommend this is. It's like I feel no animosity and no bitterness. I saw pictures of her standing next to this album cover on its 40th anniversary, and I was like, maybe 30th, I'm not sure. I was like,
Yeah.
good for her. I like her. I feel no cruelty to this album. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Did nothing for me. I can't
I know.
enthusiastically tell
I
people to
know.
listen to it. It's
I
fine.
know. I know.
So that's where I'm at. Weak not recommend with no animosity. Very kind.
Okay, first up, briefly, because I've talked about it like 2 times now, once at the end of the last episode and now at the beginning of this, Carnival. Next up, track number 2, which is I think just it's probably uh I don't know if I like it separately, but it's probably my favorite of the more punchy songs on the album. I really love the hook. Like the hook is just so anthemic, and there's something
Mm,
about the syncopation of the guitars and how they sync up with the
mm,
drums, especially in the last like 30 seconds when the ride cymbals come in. Like it's I don't know, and the thing that speaks to the rest of the album the most for me from this song is just how much fun she can have with the vocals while also being like incredibly skilled. It's such a playful hook. It's such a like fun kind of teasing thing, but also at the same time it's like it's just gorgeous. Like she just does have a beautiful voice that can hold notes extremely well, which like um technical talent isn't everything, but it just all works so well to create this really rich sound. And that's all I'm looking for really with
yeah.
like pop. I'm just like and that's why I love this album so much. I'm just looking for like a commitment really. Or what I really can't stand is like pop that's meant to be fun that doesn't commit to being full.
Mm,
And this album does that wholeheartedly. uh and finally is the final track. I love
mm,
the final track. It's so like it's for me it's a really wonderful like ending feeling. It feels like the
mm.
goodbye credit sequence to like a really fun like TV show or something
Yeah.
like
It feels
that.
like
It's
Sailor Moon.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was. I was trying to like. Also, I was trying to remember the anime, and I didn't just want to say vaguely. It reminds me of anime. I'm reviewing the Japanese thing. Thank you for saying that because it there was something it was reminding me of. My least favorite. Josh, yours was a good contender. However, mine would be uh track 10, which just actually doesn't do the thing that I've been talking about. Yeah, for
Mm,
me, it's like completely unnecessary as a song. But apart from that, I give this album like a decent to strong recommend.
mm,
I think it's a really like fun time, and I can't give a whole lot of like reasons for why everyone will love it. But to go back to what I was saying just a second ago, um, if you like pop, if what you're looking for in pop is just something fun and luscious, like a Janelle Monáe,
mm.
but yeah, just richness and like yeah, grandeur is why I love this album, and it's why you might love it too. So
And,
yeah, decent recommend.
and I'd say if the emotional kind of gravity of the lyrics here sound appealing to you, I'd recommend an Achiko Aoba album. Uh,
Okay, thanks very much for listening. Next week we should be talking about old.
mm,
Yeah, we should be, shouldn't we? We're gonna go to that showing, I think. We need to, yeah, get the editing this out. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Check out our social medias, all linked in the description. Have a nice week. Goodbye.